First off, I want to thank the grace of heaven and the virtues of the masters, the mercy of the grand predecessors, transmitting masters, lecturers, and everyone here today for the opportunity to talk about this, the purpose of Tao. Okay, so last time, well, this, I think, okay, so we're up to here now. This guy, Xiang San. Okay, so, so basically, this, the basic meaning is to transform evil into good, or transform bad into good. Okay, change from bad to good. So people are not sages. Like that's us, right? We're just normal, common people, and we're not like saints. So who does not have faults, right? Reforming oneself, transforming oneself for the better, or renewing oneself and changing for the better. That's the best thing. Okay, so that should that should kind of go without saying. So this tells us that if people have faults or made mistakes and know to repent and not commit the faults or mistakes again, that is to change from bad or evil to good. Right? People have the chance to renew or reform themselves. Then the good spirit or atmosphere, or I don't know, good aura, maybe you can say, will naturally spread to others. Okay, so so obviously we have, everyone, we can all have influence on others, whether it's good or bad. Hopefully it's for the good, right? That's what we're trying to do. So if we cultivate ourselves, we improve ourselves, get rid of our bad habits, bad temper, then, or, even getting rid of our delusions, attachments, all these things. And, especially like for those who are close to us, family, relatives, friends, maybe coworkers, they can see that we've changed. When they see that change, that's becomes a good influence. I mean, assuming that the change is good, then it can have a good influence on them, and we can definitely then, once we change ourselves, then we can change others. It's better than, this is like the actions speak louder than words. It's better than to try to tell other people or encourage other people to do good, but if we're not doing good ourselves, if we're not changing for the better, then why would they listen to us? So again, this is doing by example, right? Or teaching by example. So holy teacher says, it is good. Well, the Chinese san, right? Okay, so it is good to improve from yesterday, right? If we made some improvements from yesterday, the day before, it is evil or bad, I guess, to regress from yesterday. So if we're kind of backsliding, kind of getting worse, okay. So if we have, maybe we make mistakes, we have faults, we have quick temper, but day to day it's like getting worse. Then that's obviously that's no good. So that's considered evil or definitely bad. Okay, so definitely we should try to see improvement in ourselves every day, and that's where that self-reflection, the introspection, right? Like the Zenzi's 3 introspections. So if we can do that every day, kind of reflect on what we did, what we said, even what we thought, every day at the perhaps at the end of the day, then we can hopefully we can at least become aware of what we did that maybe need some improvement, or anything, what we said, and in any ways, however we can improve, areas for improvement. And there's always areas for improvement. Okay, we're not, like it says, we're not perfect. Okay, so we're not sages. Therefore, we will make mistakes. We are, we have our deficiencies, etc., that we need to overcome, correct. And so that's self-reflection and repenting. The repenting again, is to recognize, to acknowledge that we did something wrong, or maybe, not so well, that we can improve upon. And then we have to kind of set our mind, have that will to make that change, say, oh, or become aware, or be aware, so that next time we don't repeat it. Okay, so that then we will have improved. But if we're going from day to day, it's like we're not even aware of things that we're doing, then there's no way to improve. Okay, so faults and sins, they arise from the accumulation of bad habits and behavior. So if we are to transform evil into good, then we must break the bad habits. Okay, so stop and change our bad intentions and behavior. That's why we learn the moral teachings of the sages and the true principles of the Tao. We also have to perform good deeds and merits to help reduce the negative, aura, or this negative cloud around us that we're in, that due to our either bad temperament, or our bad karma that we're carrying with us. Okay, so those habits. I mean, right? We keep saying the six. Well, in Chinese, it's six. Six words for in terms of cultivation. What's cultivation about, right? Gai Mao being 3PG. So just to get rid of our get rid of our bad habits and temperament, bad temper. So if we can do that, then we definitely are making improvements. Okay, so but these bad habits, because they're accumulated, it's the accumulation of these habits that make it difficult, and so that's why it's important that we try to catch it in the beginning before something becomes a habit. Okay, that's always the best thing. So that's essentially try to prevent. Although we've already maybe did something wrong, we want to prevent further wrongdoing. Okay. Now, of course, the best prevention, of course, is not to do it wrong in the first place. And that's why if we can actually really study and learn the principles and learn the ways of the saints and sages and the Buddhas, then, well, we can avoid those mistakes, right? So in the first place, and that's certainly the best thing. Okay, so this says, do not neglect to do a good deed just because it is trivial. Do not perform an evil deed just because it is minor. Yeah, so we should not think that, this thing is it's very trivial, it's very minor, so it's not a big deal. Like if it's a good deed, maybe saying, just smiling even, okay, very simple, not saying anything, just smiling at someone, or just saying hello, or just saying some simple good words, encouraging words to them. We think, that's nothing. I mean, but it can have a big impact on them. So we shouldn't think that, that's trivial. I don't need to do that. And on the flip side, if for bad evil deeds, again, if it's a very tiny, small thing, it's like, let me just I'm going to borrow this pen from the temple, or I'm going to borrow this from work, take it home, and then you forgot about it. That's not. I mean that's very minor, very trivial. But still, these things add up, right? The problem is the accumulation and how we view this. If we think, it's nothing, then gradually every little thing that may be evil or bad, then we'll probably be able to do because we think it's nothing, right? But then it all accumulates. When we keep doing those, it adds up. we're building up, we're committing sins, we're accumulating perhaps this bad karma. So that so that's why we have to be very careful, right? Don't get too don't let it become a habit, right? So even these little things, okay. Um, okay. Uh, Okay, when bad habits have become part of the character and one becomes inured is like accustomed to something. When you start doing it, especially if it's like kind of bad things, to what is evil and regarded as good. So we repeatedly doing evil. Repeatedly doing evil leads one to think that it's good, right? Because you think, well, I can get away with this little thing. And then so I think after a while you keep doing it, then you think maybe it's actually a good thing, or there's nothing wrong with it. Okay, so then it becomes difficult to cure, right? So at that point, it's kind of becomes a habit, and then so that's dangerous, and then it's difficult to make that to change from that. So therefore, again, prevention is the best medicine. So so just like a lie, right? When we tell a lie, even if it's a small lie, right? But if we constantly repeat that lie, then it becomes the truth, at least to us. We think that it's a truth. So, we see that in politics, right? This past election in the U.S., right? Some people think, the election was stolen, right? And then they keep repeating it, and a lot of people think it's true, but of course it's false. So that's kind of like a brainwashing. So the habits are the same way, right? If we constantly do things that are wrong, bad, evil, that are against the conscience, not only does it become a habit, right? We think nothing of it, right? And even think that we are doing nothing wrong. When it gets to this stage, it is very difficult to change, to correct oneself. Therefore, we definitely do not want to wait this long to start correcting ourselves. So that it is always best to identify what we're doing wrong at the earliest possible instant, right? To be able to correct it and make that change and stop doing it, okay? Since it's not always easy to see our own faults and mistakes, it is important that we have a few friends who can tell us honestly what areas we can improve in. Okay, so actually, Holy Teacher did suggest that we select 3 people who can be very honest and very frank with us in letting us know that we, in areas that we need to improve in. Okay, or where we've done wrong or whatever, and again, it's because we usually don't see our own faults. Okay, that's just I guess you can say that's human nature, and so that's something that we need to work on. It's just like what Jesus said, right? We see the speck of dirt in someone else's eye, but we don't see that there's a plank of wood in our own eye. Okay, so again, self-reflection. So cultivation, if we want to improve ourselves, the first step is to be able to self-reflect, and that is a very big key step. And if we can't do self-reflection, we can't introspect, then we cannot be successful. I'll say that we cannot be successful in cultivation, okay? Because it relies on that, being able to do that. So Confucius says, right, when one has faults, do not fear to change them. And basically, we can rectify ourselves in 3 ways. Be shameful, be fearful, and be courageous. So the bad habits or evil habits, right, they're not established overnight. When we have done something wrong, we must immediately realize the mistake and correct it so that we do not repeat it in the future. we do not correct ourselves, then it becomes a real fault instead of just a simple mistake. Okay. In other words, yeah, if we repeat it. Okay, so how can we rectify ourselves? Right, to be shameful and use this shame to temper or encourage and strengthen oneself. Okay, so shame, remember, either a sense of shame or a sense of honor. That is one of the 8 virtues. Okay, so as you know, we have to have that to realize, to kind of correct ourselves. Really, I mean, if we don't have a sense of shame in what we're doing, if we're doing wrongdoings, then there's no then how we can't correct ourselves, right? So, but if we did something wrong or made a mistake and we have a sense of shame about it, we feel shameful, or at least we feel regret or remorse, then we have a chance to change and correct ourselves. Okay, so that's also very important. Be fearful, right? As if 10 eyes are watching us and 10 fingers are pointing at us. We cannot deceive. Yeah, also, I mean, if we are alone, right? If we're alone, so he says, we cannot deceive even in the dark. Okay, so if no one else sees us, well, at least, human eyes don't see us, but there are spirits and deities. They're all around us and they can see. So even minor wrongdoings will cause us to lose some blessings, whereas major wrongdoings will bring about disasters. How can we not be afraid? Okay, so we should always be fearful, just like no, I think there was a story earlier. I don't know, it was in this topic or a previous topic, but the person who's constantly, assuming that God is watching, and even though God may not take action and punish us right away, well, the punishment happens later, right? This is karma. And we eventually will be punished for our sins, and so, but we have to constantly remind ourselves that just because no one else is watching, that there is someone is watching, actually, whether it's the spirits or God, our conscience is watching too. Okay, so our conscience knows what we've done, and therefore in the end we're going to be punished. So it's not worth it. Okay. Okay, so let's see, be courageous, right? The third thing is like having a thorn in our back, we must remove it quickly, or like being bitten by a venomous snake, right? The venom must be removed or neutralized immediately to save our life. But we have to be courageous, and also in facing, this is like people, you can say maybe it's human nature also. People don't like to change, right? Or they don't like to admit their mistakes, right? They don't like to do that. But we have to be courageous and to basically suck up to it, just say, hey, I did something wrong. I need to then also be courageous to also correct, to be willing to make that change to correct ourselves. Okay. So that's also very important. In this example, it's saying that, if it's like something that's, even like venom, poison in us, and we have to remove it immediately. If we don't, then, we're going to die. So although we don't think of these little things like little faults or mistakes as that serious, but it could be, right? If it adds up, if it accumulates over time, then we're going to pay for it. If it's not in this life, it'll be paid for in a future life, or maybe even also in the afterlife. All right. So okay, so this is. So cultivation, of course, so we want to transform from we may not be evil, or we may not think that we are evil, but we have bad habits, bad temper. If we're eating meat, well, that's also a bad thing. So we need to start changing. Okay, and that's what cultivation is about. Okay. So after we receive the Tao, right, we can understand the truth and the principles of true nature. Thereafter, we should not be focused on material desires. Right? Transforming from evil to good follows the heavenly principles, which provide the perfect conditions for achieving. This is because when we receive the Tao, we are supposed to be 100% sincere and pious. Okay. Yeah, I know that. I mean, maybe a lot of people that when they're receiving the Tao, they're not really sincere. But okay, now seeking. Okay, so seeking the Tao can settle the. See this, yeah. Okay, so seeking the Tao can settle the soul's yearning for the eternal life or eternity. Okay, mankind has limitless desires. Yearning for the perfect ideal and only attaining the perfect thing will stop his pursuit of those desires, right? And so, we're not satisfied with the things we're getting unless it's, matches our ideal, the perfection. So otherwise, man will continue to seek and pursue it forever. Except for Tao, everything else is imperfect and transient. So that's something that we have to realize too. So that's why we always say, everything is false, everything is fake. Well, it's at least it's transient. It's not. It's impermanent, right? This is part of the like right anicca, right? It's impermanence. Everything is impermanent, or and it's also not satisfactory. Okay, it's not perfect. So, anything that's material, anything that we can seek or try to pursue will be of that nature. But only the Tao, you can say, is perfect. Okay, so that's what we should be pursuing. The Tao and those true principles. So only by accepting Tao completely can the human soul settle down. So that's really what we should be looking for. This Tao. Okay. Everything else is you can say it's inconsequential to our ultimate destiny, in life. Okay, only the Tao is true. Okay, so but one must be 100% sincere. Otherwise, if one cannot let go of all selfishness, then one is unable to completely accept the true heavenly principles. Right, and then repentance enables people to change from evil through humble regret or remorse, giving rise to a transcending spirit to transform into good. Willing to practice moral virtues and be kind, merciful and beneficial to others. The internal realization of one's error and repentance combined with the external actualization and practice is the whole process of repentance and reform, right? So therefore, repentance allows people to be more in line with the true heavenly principles and be closer to the eternal life or eternity. So yeah, repentance is also a very important part of cultivation. Okay, again, identifying. So it's part of the whole thing about transforming from evil to good, transforming ourselves. So, but we have to be able to first acknowledge that we did something wrong, admit to the wrongdoing, and then to reform ourselves, make sure that we don't do it again. Okay. All right. So that's this one phrase here. So now we get to the next, which actually we'll talk about these these three together here. So 讲明五伦八德. Okay, so this is to elucidate and understand the 5 cardinal relationships and the 5 cardinal virtues. And then 阐发五教圣人之奥之. Okay, so to spread the profound truth of the masters of the 5 religions, So, the five. Okay, well, we'll talk about each of these afterwards, and then 克尊是视为纲常之古礼. Okay, so this is to scrupulously abide by the four bonds, three guides, and five constants of ancient conduct. Okay, so all right. Now so the five cardinal relationships, they can also be called the five cardinal guides. Okay, of social conduct. So that's basically the relationships between parents and children. Okay, so there's a certain, I guess you can say, certain characteristics of that relationship, right? Where filial piety, right, we talked about earlier, is part of that. And then superior and between the superior and subordinate. So this, in the past, maybe it's, it's any kind of the relationship that has where you have someone above you that like, for example, it could be at work, right? Your boss, or it could be like for a leader of a country, then, and everyone, the citizens of that country. Okay. And then relationship between husband and wife, the relationship between, you can say, siblings or peers, and then also relationship between friends. So these are the five that Confucius talks about, and it's basically that's it. This encompasses all the relationships that are possible among humans, okay, in society, right? And then these four, let's see, it says, okay. Let's see, there's the four social bonds of conduct are propriety, righteousness, integrity, and shame. Well, that's part of the, actually, it's like, it's the, okay, well, actually, we're talking about the eight virtues here. The eight virtues, right? So it's filial piety, brotherhood, or you can say brotherly love, loyalty, trust, propriety, righteousness, honesty or integrity, and shame, or sense of shame, or honor. Okay, so these are the eight. As human beings, we are capable of expressing or manifesting all these virtues, right? Let's see. Okay. Right. So the primary way that the practice of Tao cares for society is by way of social, what we call, I don't know, I just use social enlightenment. You can say, social education, right? Or just, enlightening the people. Basically, this part of the purpose of Tao, which is basically the social conduct and you might say religious teachings, represents the teachings, the education and enlightenment of society, right? The goal of which is to teach people to respect heaven and earth. Basically, right, what we said in the beginning, that's respecting the divinities, okay, God and saints, Buddhas, to reveal or manifest the divine conscience. Right? We all have that divine conscience. That's God-given, right? We it's part of our, you can say it's our true nature. And so, and to transform evil into the good and to conform to the proprieties of social order. Right? Therefore, the teaching or enlightenment is about moral ethics of social order and proprieties. Right? So this is all part of what we call the Dao of humanity. Right? The Dao of humanity. Right? We talk about the Dao. We receive the Dao, but you can say you can kind of I guess maybe I don't know, split it or whatever into two aspects. One is the Dao of Heaven, and then the other is the Dao of humanity. The Dao of humanity is because we are humans, and therefore that relates to our conduct, okay, as human beings. But we, in order to achieve the Dao of Heaven, which is basically when we are able to return to heaven, is by achieving the Tao of humanity. So we have to conduct ourselves properly and be upright, be respectful, all that as a human being. Okay, so that's why these things are all important about the type of relationships, our roles in these relationships with other people, and in manifesting these virtues. Okay, so the 5 relationships, right? It's no different in the animals, right? They also follow certain principles of social order, having a kind of pecking order, right? An order of seniority. And of course, they also have parents and children, right? I mean, all biological life has that relationship, right? We come from, well, what we call, our parents, right? A sense, and there's also a sense of belonging to a family or larger community of animals, right? And I'm talking about animals here. So like the crow and the lamb exhibit filial piety that, we talked about. For humans, filial piety and brotherhood are the foundations of social order. All right. So, yeah. So how we, our relationship with our parents and also with others, but you can say brotherhood is, it's not just about siblings, of course. I mean, at a narrow sense, yeah, it is just, talking about within the family, but in a broader sense, then we include, it's pretty much everyone. You can say it's also neighborliness, being good with our neighbors, etc. Friends, everyone, right? So then that those two then cover everything, right? All right, so that's these are very important. Anyways, this to spread the profound truth of the masters of the 5 religions. All right, so in Buddhism, right, they say, awaken the mind and behold the true nature. Okay, and all dharmas return to the one. Okay, so 明心见性 and 万法归一. And in the Taoist, I guess, yeah, Taoist religion tradition, they say to cultivate, 虚心练性, right? 包圆 包圆受益. Okay, so cultivate the mind and refine the true nature, embrace the origin or essence, and maintain the one. Okay, all right, you notice that they're all talking about one. Okay, so, and then in Confucianism, right, it says 存心养性, and then 执中共一. Okay, so you can say maintain the heart, mind, and nurture the true nature, hold to the center, and pervade the one. Okay, so they're all talking about the one, right? Okay, so now a holy teacher says, right? So he's talking about those three religions. Taoism is based on emptiness. You could say the true void, whatever. Stresses maintaining the empty spirit, returning to the absolute void, or you can say absolute heaven. Buddhism, for Buddhism, quiescence is the root. Okay, emphasizes reflecting on the quiescence, eliminating desires. Right? In Confucianism, to realize and cultivate the true nature emphasizes purging selfish desires to achieve purity and perfection. So that is the utmost good and excellence, or quiescence, or absolute void. So they use different terminology, different ways of talking about that one. Okay, but it's really the same thing. Okay, and that's the truth, or the Tao. Or okay, the 3 religious traditions stem from the one truth and absolute void. Okay, so they all come from the same source, the same origin. They all have the same origin. They're all talking about the same basic fundamental principles of the truth. Okay, it's just that they talk about it in different ways. And then the other 2 of the 5 religions, right, Christianity, right? So it says 习心一性, and 莫道清一. Okay, so wash away evil and distracting thoughts and attentions to align to the true nature and silently pray to get close to the one. right? And then in Islam, it says 见心定性, right? 清真反义. Okay, so firm the mind and fix or settle the true self, purify oneself, and be sincere to return to the one. All right, so they all have this common objective, which is to return to the one, or what you can say, the truth or God. All right, so they're all this in that sense. They're all basically the same. And so what is this one that they're all referring to, right? So one is the final objective, final attainment or achievement. We can also say that is the truth, the Tao, and God. However, each religion has their own approach to reach the objective of oneness. One is the essence and source of the universe and all creation, right? Yeah, so they go about it different ways. Obviously their practice is different, and their teachings really are the same. It's just that on the surface they sound different. Okay, but if you dig into it, then it's really the same. Okay, the underlying principles are the same. Okay, so the sages of the 5 religions did not reveal their secrets directly, but left hints in the scriptures to pave the way for the harvest, universal salvation, right? So that's happening during this white era, and the returning of all religious traditions to that truth, to the one. We are now in the white era, the period of universal salvation, or as some scriptures call it, the end of days. The secrets of the sages of the 5 religions were not openly propagated, just leaving behind instructions on how to be a good person so that people can transform themselves from evil into good and perform merits. Right? In this way, when the timing is right, basically right now, the timing is right because we have universal propagation of the Tao, the truth can be revealed through the Tao. And those who have a good foundation, those who basically been practicing in those religions, they've been cultivating, right? They've been transforming from evil into good, okay? Will be able to reap the fruits of their faith and practice in their past lives. Okay, so as Tao cultivators, we should study the mystery of the teachings of the sage, or the profound teachings of the sages of the 5 religions, and promulgate them, to spread the teachings, while also respecting and implementing the ancient principles of social order. Okay, so yeah, it's once we can realize that the religions, they're all talking about, in essence, they're all talking about the Tao. They're all talking about this one. Then there's no need to say, oh, we are, ours is better than theirs. Okay. That, right. So now we've talked about that before, that they all come from the one. And so it's just that they go about it somewhat differently. And so we can't look down on others, in religious practice, just because, well, we think that they cannot transcend. But it's a matter of affinity plays a role. Their karmic affinity also plays a role as far as when they have that opportunity to be able to actually receive the Tao. Because the Tao is a more direct way to achieve that or reach that one. Okay. But religions, you can do it too, but it just takes many lifetimes. And so if they're still in a religion today, they're still practicing religion, then they may not be able to achieve that one in this lifetime. It may take, who knows how long. All right. But eventually they'll probably, we say that, they'll eventually need to encounter the Tao, be able to accept the Tao and receive the Tao and cultivate, and then they can achieve the one more quickly. All right. Okay, so then getting on to okay, so that third phrase here, it says to scrupulously abide by the four bonds, three guides, and five constants of ancient conduct. The so the four bonds of social conduct are, again, those are the second half of the eight virtues, right? Propriety, righteousness, honesty or integrity, and shame or honor. Okay, and the three, what we call san gang. Okay, so these are the three cardinal guides of social order. Again, these are three of the five relationships, or yeah. So this between the superior and subordinate, parents and children, and husband and wife. Okay, and so this, if you look at these, this is like, you can say the minimal subset of relationships that we have, right? So, you know, you have husband and wife, and then, you know, you have parents and children. And then in society, you would always have this some kind of a social order. So there's superior, subordinate kind of relationship. So this is kind of a minimum, right? And then the five constants are the five, what we call also five constant virtues: benevolence, righteousness, propriety, wisdom, and then faith. I put all these three together here: faith, trust, sincerity. You know, this Xing character is kind of loaded word here. It can mean a lot of things, all right, depending on the context. So the heavenly Tao today has a broader scope to include the three cardinal guides of social order, okay, and the five constant virtues. So Holy Teacher said, the Tao, heart and mind, is the virtuous nature, and the practice of the five cardinal guides and relationships is the three guides and five constants. So this Gangchang, right? So the guides and constants are not just about the three cardinal guides and five constant virtues, but a general term for all principles of behavior and conduct in daily life that conform to the heavenly laws. So yeah, when the Chinese, when they talk about let's see, there's Gangchang, right? These two here, Gang means the Sangang, and then Wuchang. It's not it's not so narrow to be just these things here, but you know, well, that's the narrow definition of it, but it's actually broader when it's applied to us in this context of cultivation, that it involves all aspects of our conduct and behavior, right? And that as long as it is following the heavenly laws, the principles, okay? Now, today, people don't talk about the principles and guides of social order. Instead, what we have is social media, okay? So we're not talking, okay, so what's social about social media? Yeah, it allows us to have more interaction between people, but the principles of social order is not about the quantity of interaction, it's about the quality of interaction, okay? So not the technical means of interacting, but the humanity or humaneness of interaction. And not just of interaction, but the bonds of interaction or relationship. So this is what is missing from education today, and it's kind of missing from general in society, I guess, or deficient today. We think that social media, yeah, we can connect with others more easily, but I think there's something missing there, something lacking, that true sense of relationship. Okay, so now what we have is a relationship to, I don't know, some words that or whatever that's we're sharing, but it's not having the relationship with that person anymore. People are no longer people; they're just, you know, there's an avatar, or they have a nickname, and that's it. That's all you know. So it's kind of you might say it's kind of ironic, but it's kind of like dehumanizing. Okay, it's no longer very human or humane, you would say. Okay, so here's an example of the righteous or courteous relationship between superior and subordinate. Okay, so there's a story here. There is this Li Shiming, okay, so also known as Tang Taizong. Okay, so he was the Tang Dynasty's second emperor. Right? He had a great reputation as a ruler. He knew how to make good use of people's talents. He was also good at accepting their loyal, honest words or advice, and treated his ministers with courtesy. Among them, among his ministers was Wei Zheng, okay, so whose contributions were the greatest. Now, so Taizong, he was very prestigious, and the officials were in awe of him. And only Wei Zheng was able to speak up to him. So as long as Taizong said the wrong thing and did something wrong, Wei Zheng would speak up out of a sense of righteousness. But he kind of also ignored the etiquette. I mean, he was very direct. Okay, he was a very educated and talented minister. He would never say anything that he knew was not for the good and benefit of the country. So Wei Zheng was very frank and outspoken, saying things without reserve. So Taizong respected his opinions and ideas, accepting them all, and also treated him with courtesy. Now, Taizong's wife, right, the Empress Changsun Si, okay, she liked to read, was very sensible, well-informed, gentle, and demure or modest, right, respectful of elders, and very courteous. So she was a rare and useful assistant within the royal palace. Therefore, she was very well respected by Taizong. They respected each other with such respect as if they were each other's honored guest. In great matters of the country and in when reward or punishment is to be given to ministers, Taizong would consult with her in private. Now, he always felt that, the empress should not be directly involved in these matters, so that's why he kind of consulted with her only in private. Now, one time, Taizong, he returned to the palace and he kind of lost his temper. He's saying, I must kill someone. When Changsun Si heard this, right, she thought it was unusual and asked him why he was so angry. Taizong replied, Wei Zheng is too despicable. No matter what we are discussing, as long as he disagrees, he always insists on his opinions and did not even give me face, right? So he's very, very direct in giving his opinion. So this happened many times in the royal court in front of everyone. So I must kill him. So Changsun Si, heard this and didn't say anything. After a while, she changed into a formal ceremonial dress and politely and respectfully bowed to him. Because they never were so formal with each other, Taizong asked her, why did she do that? So Changsun Si very solemnly said, I once heard that the king is sagely and the minister is capable. In a country, a wise emperor can produce upright and loyal ministers. It is the same principle as Shajie. Okay, so that was referring to the last monarch of the Xia dynasty, and Sangzhou, the last monarch of the Song dynasty, right? Who killed he killed his loyal minister Bi Gan. Okay, so today I heard you say there was such a loyal, devoted minister in Wei Zheng, who is willing to die by admonishing the emperor. How can I not congratulate you? Right, so Taizong, he was moved by what he just heard. Right, since then, he was even more respectful of Wei Zheng. Right, later on, after Wei Zheng died, Taizong was very sad in losing such a good assistant and missed him very much. Therefore, he often said to the people around him, people can use copper as a mirror to dress up. They can take history as a mirror to know the rise and fall of dynasties. And they can take people as a mirror to know their gains and losses. I always keep these three treasures to prevent myself from making mistakes. Now that Wei Zheng is no longer with us, I have already lost a treasure. Okay, so from this, we can see that Taizong had great political achievements during his rule, and that's called Zhenguang, okay, but which brought the four barbaric tribes to submission, made the country peaceful and safe, all because he was able to treat his ministers with courtesy, and Wei Zheng and the other virtuous ministers could be loyal and devoted subjects. Right, so that's so that's yeah, I mean, this is a true story. Basically, so an emperor. So this is a case of we're talking about superior and subordinate. So the superior person, the person who is in that role of being, above, like a ruler, they have to be able to accept, the honest advice, and even if it goes against, or even if they, in this case, not giving him face, but still, he still has to be courteous and respectful and listen to them, right? And then that's the only way, because again, this is like having those three friends that can honestly tell us when we made a mistake. All right, so that's why this the rule, his rule was, his reign was very good, in history, in historical terms. It was very good, because he was able to listen to his ministers, even if they kind of gave different opinions, or disagreed with him, right? So that's kind of something that we have to learn. So again, being in various roles in the social orders, right? We need to do what's proper, what's right in those roles. Okay. Okay, so now we're on to the next. Okay, so these next three phrases here, 虚心涤虑, to purify the heart, mind, and wash away anxieties, right? To 借假修真, to utilize the false forms to cultivate the true self, and 恢复本性之自然. Okay, so to restore oneself to its original natural state. Now, the moment we receive the point transmission, the Dao, is like turning on a bright light. When the sixth patriarch Yearning received the point transmission from the fifth patriarch, he exclaimed, right, "How amazing that the self-nature is unborn and undying. How amazing that the self-nature is originally pure and still. How amazing that the self-nature is inherently complete. How amazing that the self-nature neither moves nor stays. How amazing that all dharmas come from the self-nature." Right? So sixth patriarch, he discovered the light, the brightness of that self-nature, or the true nature, okay, or the Buddha nature. One's innate good nature can inspire oneself, transform evil into good, and return to the original divine nature, which is to return to the land of bliss. Now, why don't we feel the same as sixth patriarch? When we received the Tao, we didn't we didn't have that, you can say, epiphany or whatever, inspiration, because our bright self-nature is covered up with thick layers, very thick layers of desires, attachments, likes and dislikes, biases, pride, arrogance, bad temper, and habits, selfishness, egoism, right? All these things, okay? All these things. So that's why we have to cultivate, to purify the mind and body. Then we will be able to wash away the anxieties and worries, right? So if we actually, just like the sixth patriarch, when after basically he received our the transmission, the point transmission, that wow, there was no, at his level, he had there's nothing to be anxious about, no worries, no concerns, right? That was all washed away. And he's already pure. But we have to realize that we have this body, which is the false form, and we live in this this material world, which is also a false form. So we have to kind of live, within that, and we have to do what's right to and realize that, well, the true self, that's what's important, right? So it's our the Buddha nature, our essence, our soul. That is what we need to take care of. So all the things, and because we live in this false, the world of false forms, we then we have to also have the Tao of humanity, right? Dealing with all those, the social order, the relationships, all that thing, all those. But the point is to get to that state of purity, or you can say that original natural state of that true self. Okay, but it's by means of the external, these false forms. All right. Okay. All right, so you should use water, use the water of absolute heaven, the water of divine wisdom, to wash away the defilements of temperament and bad habits that were accumulated in this world. So, our original self nature in absolute heaven, is pure, still, and bright. But having been born in a physical body in the material world, we were blinded by material desires. We're full of emotions, sensual pleasures, wealth, power, and fame. Just as it said in the Heart Sutra, right? Form, sensation, conception, volition, and consciousness. Okay, so these that's the five skandhas. Okay, so there's this. It's kind of creates this vicious cycle. So we've been defiled by the five skandhas, constantly repeating the process where the desires never stop. Now that we have received the great Tao, we must use prajna or divine wisdom to wash and filter away all those things, leaving just the pure and still self nature. Right? So I mean, we talked about this when we're talking about the Heart Sutra. So but yeah, because of I guess you can say this process of the five skandhas kind of makes us believe that all this false forms are real, and so that's what then we become conditioned, right? Because it's constantly going through this process and all our interactions with the world and others, or even with ourselves, and so then we kind of we don't understand, we don't realize that this is it's become a delusion. Okay, it's self delusion, and that's what leads us down the path of karma, creating karma, and reincarnation, the cycle of birth and rebirth, death and rebirth. Okay, so we need to break that cycle, right? Okay. And then so Confucius, right, he talks about, right, basically cut off goads. Okay, so we have to know to cut off desires and manifest our divine wisdom. Okay. Now in the classic of purity and stillness, right, the Qing Jing Jing, that's Lao Tzu, one of his classics, says this. So says the human spirit prefers purity, right, but the mind disturbs it. The human mind prefers stillness, but desires mislead it. If one constantly expels desires, the mind will naturally become still. Right? If one constantly clears the mind, the spirit will naturally become pure. Naturally, the six desires will not arise, and the three poisons will vanish. Right? The six desires are the desires through our six senses, the physical senses plus the mind sense, and the three poisons, of course, are you can say greed, anger or rage, and you can say delusion or ignorance. Okay, so this So you can see that it's very similar to what Buddha says, right? We have to get rid of our desires because the desires are the cause of all our ultimate suffering or dukkha. Okay, so as part of the Four Noble Truths. So here you can say Lao Tzu and Buddha, they're talking about the same thing. So again, that one truth, they talk about the one truth. Okay, so and then later on it says, constantly respond to things using that which is true and eternal, constantly maintain the true nature, which is true and eternal, constantly respond and constantly be still, constantly be pure and still. So, getting rid of our desires allows the self nature to be pure and still, which is what it, should be. That's kind of the natural state of things. And, this is the responding, when we're responding to things, situations, to people, we have to use that which is true and eternal, not our conscious mind, which is constantly changing, but our true nature, our Buddha nature, our conscience. Okay, and so that's how we can basically respond, but be still at the same time, because we are not arousing emotions or thoughts, biases, prejudices, discrimination, anything like that, right? No likes and dislikes. So if we are responding from our true nature, are responding from our conscience, then that is really also to be still, even though we're responding. So it's just like that's being pure and still. So that's again, this is kind of the thing that there's a theme, this is like a common theme throughout that we talk about, just like when we do the kato, again, there's that stillness and motion, okay? So it's a common theme. Okay, so we also need to self-reflect and self-illuminate. The light of the heart and mind usually shines outward, right? Seeking things outside. We must shine that light inward and settle our heart and mind, right? Our eyes, our eyes don't look within us, right? They don't look inside us. They look outside. And our ears, they hear things outside, so pretty much all our senses are dealing with the outside world for the most part. I mean, our mind can kind of deal with its own, but everything else is kind of external. So that, unfortunately, because when these are what we call the six desires, then they start leading us towards, to the outside, right? Our energy is spent outside and not inside. So it's saying we have to reflect, right? So that's part of the self-reflection. You can say self-reflection, introspection is to turn that light inward, illuminate ourselves, illuminate our heart and mind. Okay, rather than trying to illuminate the outside, which we're not really doing. And this is how we can finally get closer to our true self, okay? So we want to self-reflect, self-illuminate at all times, be on guard to keep that the wild monkey and the wild horse of the mind locked up, because our mind is kind of like this wild monkey and wild horse, right? They do all sorts of things, whether it's rash or things that it shouldn't do. Do not let the mind wander and get lost outside, right? So people who are pursuing all those things, wealth, fame, or power, these are, or even like pleasures. That's basically letting the mind wander outside and basically getting lost out there. And we have to pull it back, bring it back. Okay. The Dao cultivator, if you think about it, if our mind is basically becomes scattered, right? Our mind becomes scattered outside, right? How do we to bring our mind back, right? To bring it back, focus back, concentrate back on us, within us, okay? Looking within, that's what? That's one, okay? So bringing it back to one, okay? All right, so the Tao cultivator should purify the heart and mind and reduce the desires and get rid of worries and anxieties. Actually, the more things that you have, the more anxiety that you have, right? A lot of people who they're wealthy, then they're worried that they're going to lose. They have this sense of gain and loss, so they have worried that they're going to lose their wealth, worried that people are going to steal it, or they're gonna try to rob them, hold them ransom, or whatever. All these things. So there's a lot of worries. When the more things you have, the more things you're going to worry about. Making use of the situations to temper the will and cultivate the heart and mind and character. Use this false self, the body, to complete the true self. Right? Gradually perform merits, establish virtues to eliminate karmic debts. Then, naturally, the conscience is revealed and regain the original divine nature. Okay. Okay, so yeah, there's this. Let me see. All right. Yeah. Okay. This is kind of a longer story here. So I guess maybe we'll continue next week. I thought I was gonna finish this week, but there's still a few more slides. So we'll just continue next week then. Sorry, it'll be Thanksgiving week, but well, yeah, got to do something, after you eat your fill. Anyways, so all right. So with that said, then if I had said anything wrong, if I or unsatisfactory, I ask the Buddhists for forgiveness, and I also ask transmitting masters and lecturers for their corrections. Thank you.